G'day everyone, Matt from Crank Engineering. Wednesday, 3rd of August, day 3, Greg's Garage Challenge. Less talk, more action. Alright, so let's just talk about some of the normal challenges when you're pulling something apart with no manual. So I'm looking at this whole assembly, spindle assembly, trying to figure out how to get it apart, and this whole casting is one piece. So there's a roller bearing in the front here, and there'll be a roller bearing behind this cover as well, and I know that because this is an AR model lathe, so the A is the A model and the R is a roller bearing head lathe. So if this casting is all one piece, that means the spindle's got to go out in one direction, and these gears and everything and the pulley will obviously slide, they'll stay there and the shaft will slide out. So there was a grub screw in here which I've taken out, and there was a grub screw here which I've taken out, so those collars should be loose. This hole here, you can see, is damaged. Now that to me means someone's been hammering on it to tighten it or to loosen it. There's one dent on one side and there's one dent on the other, so if you're putting a punch on it and hammering it, that's to spin it on or off. So I think this is a threaded collar. I really should check the forums and everything, but I just don't have time to go and do that, so I'm just going to wing it. So I'm looking at what I can see. So I'd say this collar spins on, so at some point I've got to take this off, but to get it off I've got to move this tumbler assembly and get it out of the way. So I've taken loosen this bolt off, but as you can see, I can't take it off because it hits on this cover. I think, I can't remember what this is called, banjo or something, I don't know. So to get this thing off, I've got to, this is a clamp bolt in here, which I've got to take off. And I had to go at it before, as you saw in the video. There's just bugger all clearance in there to get a tool in there to spin that clamp bolt off. But sequence of events, I think I have to get this off first. So I've got to take this off, then I can take the tumbler off, then I can take the cover off, and then I'll figure out how to get the spindle out. So that's the next step. So I'm just going to have to figure out either just persevere with a small spanner or something and get that clamp bolt off enough so that I can take off this this part. Okay, back to it. Okay, so I've got this spindle moving, and you can see the roll of bearing at this end, and I haven't been able to get this cover off. You saw me tapping away with a punch. You can see that's making a mark on the cover here, and because it's bolted in, I mean, I don't think it screws in, it's just a cover that just sits over and it's screwed in, but it doesn't want to come out yet, so I'm not going to get too stressed about it. I can make it spin around. I think it's got a shoulder and it sits into the housing or into the head here. So I'm just going to work on figuring out how it might come out. I'd say it's got to go out. It's got to go out that way, only because this end seems to be bigger than this end. So that's where the load is. So the bearing's bigger. So this is the bigger end. So bigger holes here. So let's go out that way. So the I've got the cone pulley is sliding on the main spindle, so the spindle should slide out, and the only thing that's not moving yet is, I think it's called a ball gear, I don't know, someone correct me in the comments please, but you can see there's a key in there, and the key's what does the driving. That's not a great way to see it, but there's one here which I'll show you. So a key is a way to drive something off a shaft. So there's a slot in this shaft and there's a corresponding slot in this gear. Now we're back. This time we've plugged the camera into some power, so I'll just take this little washer off, but you can see how there's a slot in the shaft. Well, you can't see that yet, and there's a slot in the gear, and the key is the part that fits in between. So as the shaft turns, the slot turns, therefore the key turns, and because the key's wedged into that little groove in the gear, well, the gear has no choice, but it has to spin with the shaft. So key is one way of driving gears and pulleys and things, and there's definitely one in. Just spin around. Definitely one in there. So that means I can't spin this gear on the shaft because the key's stopping it. So it's got to just slide straight off. So I just got to start working my way on that. I might have to give it a few taps with the brass hammer or the soft hammer and just see if I can slide it off. So if the spindle's going out that way, the gear's got to come off that way. So let's see how we go. Pretty sure this doesn't come out yet. I'm trying to figure out how it comes out, but I'm pretty sure I read somewhere on the forum that this, hopefully that's visible in the video, this thing here is a pin that goes right through. So I'm going to use a punch and see if I can punch it out. I'll probably go from this direction and we'll see if we can punch it out.
It's not even moving, so there's no pin. Looks like there's no pin on the handle here. Seems to go right through, but it's been painted over. So I might just give it a nudge with the persuading tool and see if it moves. If not, I might be onto the internet to see what the forums say.
No, it didn't even move. So I'm wondering if these are pins that have been peened over. So using the round end of the hammer and mashing the head basically so it doesn't come out. So that's the job for the forum. So I might just go and have a bit of poke around, see what I can find out, and I'll be back in a minute. Alright, so according to the manuals, according to the South Bend Army book that I showed you the other night, these are taper pins. So there's one in each end, and this head's bigger than this bit here, so that should be the thick end of the taper and that's the thin end, so I've got to drive this one that way. And I think it's the same here. This looks like the bigger end, that's the smaller end, so that one's got to go out that way as well. So let's give them a nudge and see how they go. Okay, so I hit it pretty hard that time and it's definitely moved. So now I need to get a smaller punch. This one's pretty good because it's got a long thin taper. Let's see if we can drive this pin out of here. And there we go. So that collar should come off. Alright. That's the rear one. I'm going to leave it in there because I've got a hammer on this end, so I just want to support that shaft. Alright, I'll get the other pin out and come back in a sec. Alright, I want to see if I can get this gearbox off. I'm pretty sure it's just suspended by 3 screws that are here, so I don't know if I'll be able to get to them with the I don't know, this is called a head or whatever. Let's just see if we can get a screwdriver in there. Might need a longer one. That's one. That's two. Where's my little stumpy one? Really not going to work, is it? So, it'd be nice if there was a hole through here. Now, I could persist, but I can only get the corner of the screwdriver onto the screw. So if I try and undo it, I'm probably going to damage it, but I'll just wedge the screwdriver and then it's loose anyway. Okay.
So I think if I'm putting it back together, I'm probably going to put the gearbox on before I put this back on, assuming that doesn't prevent any other operations. See, the gearbox has got a gap here now, so I'm going to have to support it in a second. I'll just do a block of wood or something. Too big. A bit of plywood.
So now ideally I'd get the motor, I can't see it, get the motor and the, I don't know, the H-frame, whatever this is called, off the back, but the whole thing's bolted to the stand's bolted to the concrete floor in here. So I'm just going to keep persisting with the front and probably get to the point where I can undo the bolts down here on the bed that bolted to the top of the stand, and then move the whole thing forward so I can get around the back to the motor. So we'll just keep going with this at the moment.
I'm just trying to find the right wrench. So there's some clamp bolts that hold this head onto the bed. And I did read this somewhere on the forum. Someone said, oh, but it's 15mm metric, and it's not. It's, I don't know, 31/64, so it's an unusual imperial size. So it's happy that metric 15 fits pretty good. So I'll just back off the clamp. And I'm just going to slide the whole thing off, so let's just do that on both sides. That's fun, there's not a lot of space in there. And right, so I have to get to that one. I think I'll try with a socket from underneath. 15mm. 15, and then a 6-inch extension. And of course, 6 inches is too bloody long. Let's try a small one on a 1/2-inch drive. Loosen it off, and this, let's just zoom back a bit, that's it, let's just slide in there, we go. Okay, and that was the 2 clamps on the bottom. Alright, making progress now, aren't we?
Alright, so the rest of it's pretty straightforward. Just connect so I'll leave the switch connected to the motor for now, and take the motor off, and take this H bracket off, whatever it's called. And that just bolts onto the back of the bed. I can see a couple of bolts, threads hanging out the end of the back of the bed here. And then we'll see what's next. Alright, back soon. Okay, well, we're pretty much done. There's a few bolts that hold the bed onto these base stands, and actually I haven't taken off the rack yet, but that's just, there's a screw there and there and there. So a few screws, couple of bolts and we're done. I'm going to leave that there until I'm ready to strip the paint off it. But now we've got quite a large bench, well, 2 benches really, this bench here plus the bench at the back with all the parts and the sub-assemblies. So I've been pretty careful to label everything so I can put it back together. And so today's Wednesday, so tomorrow's Thursday, so I might maybe pull a sub-assembly apart, maybe the gearbox or the apron or something, and start cleaning. So all this surface rust on these parts, I want to get all that off, and I really want all these parts that are painted to you know, look like they're just coming out of the factory. Really, that's the objective. Yeah. So hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching. If you've got any comments or input, please shoot us a comment down below, or catch us on Facebook or Instagram or email, whatever suits your fancy. Thanks again.